Plastisphere hoş geldiniz. Plastik insanla ve gezegen hakkındaki podcast. Benim adım Anja Krieger. Welcome to Plastisphere, the podcast on plastic, people, and the planet. My name is Anja Krieger. In this episode, we'll travel to Turkey with Sedat Gündogdu. Sedat is a Turkish marine biologist and one of the bravest scientists I know. He works as a professor at Cukurova University in Adana, which is in the south of the country near the Mediterranean Sea, just across the island of Cyprus. When Sedat realized how much plastic trash was polluting the water and land around him, he started to research both its origins and impacts. He began to understand the downsides of microplastics, waste trade, and recycling, and he started to talk openly about it to other scientists, the media, and the public. That is something few people in the country dare to do, as it can get you into trouble. So when I learned we would both attend the Plastics Treaty Talks in Geneva this summer, I was eager to speak with Sedat. We met up in the morning under a big tree in a park to chat about what it means to be a scientist and activist, the scare tactics Sedat experienced and how he fought them off, waste exports to Turkey, and what's needed to make change. So without further ado, here's our recording.
Yeah.
So Sedat, it's so great to finally meet you. We've been connected over Twitter for many, many years, and finally get to meet and talk about your work on plastic pollution in Turkey. So you've been one of the first to work on plastics and microplastics there, and you've also become over the years one of the most outspoken, I would say. So tell me more, like how did you get into this topic and how is the situation in Turkey?
Yeah, I have been working on plastic pollution since 2016. I realized that the marine biology is a very good topic to study as a scientist, but the real world problem is more than beyond than studying on the theoretical things about the fish biology or marine biology. So I realized that Turkish coast has really big problem about plastic pollution. So I just become one of the, as you said, outspoken guy in this science communication, because in Turkey most of the scientists, they don't want to speak in media because it can be a problem for a scientist if you use some critical voice, which I do. I critique many things. So in public opinion, people like scientists who critique something, because we are not too much to critique the problems.
Right. And what made you decide to be more courageous and speak up? Because I would think that there's quite a risk attached to it, right, in Turkey?
Because I live in Turkey, I'm a citizen, so and also the part of the society. So I have to bring this into agenda. So if there is a public health problem related with my topic, so I have to explain this. I have to bring the knowledge to the society to have this knowledge to aware of the problem, because apart from being a scientist, I'm also trying to be activist. This is not bad things, which most of the scientists, they don't want to be scientists and activists together, because it seems if you are an activist, so they think that you will use your independent tone of your speech. So, but I disagree, because I have to protect my environment, my nature that I live inside. I live together with other creature in the environment. So that's why I'm in this critical part of the science communication. And also, science has to be critical. So because science is politic, everything is political. So you have to use this political, critical language to explain. Of course, I'm not saying that to be against everything, but just an example. Currently, Turkish government trying to change the legislation on recycled material used in the as a food contact material. But when I look at the details of this draft text, the Ministry of Agriculture provided, so there are many risky things. Like they will motivate the import of plastic waste from other countries, because the main idea in the draft text, it has to be clean waste, which is the main claim by the industry when they import plastic waste, because they believe that there is no clean plastic waste in Turkey. So that's why they are importing plastic waste from other countries. But when we look at the details of this, the content of the imported waste, it's completely same content with the nationally generated waste, because all of them are food contact material actually. It's like food wrappers, cheese package, and salami package, crispy packets. We also have this plastics in domestic sources. So if they change this legislation, for instance, they will use this toxic cocktail plastic, the recycled plastics, as a food contact material. This is a really huge risk for public health. So I have to bring this in the media. I have to critique this. If I support this kind of things under the guise of circularity or the sustainable way, no, this is not true, because recycling is not sustainable. Something sustainable. It's just same as production of new plastics. There is no difference.
So as a scientist, you understand these proposals, you understand the situation, the realities of recycling, of plastic pollution. But then when you're speaking up, you're being called an activist. This whole term of activists is really being used in like a condescending way, in a way. And it's interesting because we have the same thing in journalism that you describe about the scientists, is that, it's somehow you're not neutral anymore when you become active. And that's not a good thing, because then you're not, you're not perceived objective anymore. I think that's a really, really interesting way, and maybe also a way to keep those people who have gained expertise on a topic to really engage with it.
Yeah, but the thing is, those people who believe that they are not activists and they want to be neutral or to be like objective in a topic, but actually they are defending science. Actually, they are making activism for science communication. They are natural activists, actually. All of this. This is also valid for journalists, also for politicians, everyone. If you defend science, science is politics, so you're an activist. That's the thing that I want to mention, actually.
I would also love to hear about your experience on the ground in Turkey, because you've seen things and situations there that most of us haven't seen. So maybe could you take us on a journey through your experience with plastic pollution from when you started? Like, where did you first became aware of the issue, to how that developed, and what else you saw and realized about it?
Yeah, it was 2016, the beginning of 2016. We were an expedition for sampling and to understand biodiversity in the northeastern part of Mediterranean Sea. So we just towed our travel nets to have some sample, benthic sample in the coastal area. That time it was like just end of the fishing season. So we were very close to the closing fishing season. This was our last sampling campaign. Then when we collect all this travel net and on the ship, we saw that there is no fish. Actually, literally no fish. Only a couple of crab and other crustacean. But we had many different type of plastics and some other marine debris. So we just collect all this debris and then count and weight and noted, classified. And we did this second time. We found same results in the different part of the location, the area. And then when I turned back to my office, I just started to, look at the literature about this marine debris issue. I realized that there is a really ongoing and increasing attention on this topic in the science, but zero attention in Turkey. So then we decided to work on that issue, and then that's the beginning of the story. After that, we started a project to understand microplastics and the floating microplastics on the sea surface. But we found microplastics. At that time, microplastics was quite new and a novel topic, and then nobody knows too much information about that. And then when we analyzed the sample that we get from sea, we realized that there was some specifically shredded plastics, like like someone just as if someone cut it and then dump it into the sea. We surprised because we never seen such, very obvious shapes because it's not natural. In the natural degradation, the natural degradation of plastics make plastic small particles, very irregular shapes. But this was like quite sharp and had some angles. And then we decided to find the source of this kind of things. We thought that some big ship, maybe they have shredder inside the whale ship, and then they're just putting inside and then dumping into the sea because it can be. This is very obvious issue. It's a big problem for marine pollution. But we realized it's not coming from ships. So there was a Seyhan River, which is the most polluted river in Turkey, also in Mediterranean Sea. So all this plastics comes from that river. It's obvious, it's like floating microplastics. I was surprised because when I saw this huge amount of microplastics flowing into the sea, I shocked because this only can happen when a recycling facility discharge all the untreated wastewater into the waterway. Then we surveyed on this river. We found illegal dumpings, microplastic dumping grounds, because this is shredded microplastics, residue of recycling in the recycling facilities, and those recycling facilities import plastics, and then we decided to map all these illegal dumping grounds, and we found more than 40 different dumping grounds, which is most of them alongside the Seyhan River and connected canals, because the place that I live and work is a huge agricultural plain. There are kind of irrigation canal network everywhere. So most of these facilities, they are, discharging their untreated wastewater into that canals, and farmers use that canal water as an irrigation source. So this is direct transfer of this pollutant into the food chain. So this is the actually story. I get in microplastic. At the same time, I get in waste trade issue and illegal dumping and food security related with microplastics. And during the story, I get some threat from industry because of what I explained. Because I talk about the effect of this, plastic waste import on the environment and human health, and then they targeted me in the Twitter, in the local media, national media, and they how can I say, they complained me to our rectorate, the city hall, and the governmental party ministry, and then I became one of the kind of spotted guy for those plastic industry to discredit.
How did those threats from industry look like? Like what did they do to, I don't know, to discredit you or discourage you?
Yeah, when you search your name in the Twitter, you see some people, like with fake names. They are putting your name with some words like traitor and a foreign agent, like this kind of things happen. I don't know how to translate it into English, but not good words.
Like traitor and agent
traitor,
of like
agent,
a I
foreign
don't know,
agent, like
foreign agent.
yeah, and even
Who are you working for?
that's
Come on, Sedat, tell us.
That's the interesting thing, because they think that this exporter, the plastic waste exporter, paying me to fight against Turkish importer. This is stupid, meaningless, So there is a lack of logic behind this claim, but they don't care about that. They just want to discredit, and they also, they also putting your name with some, like illegal groups and then making connection, meaningless connection, but it doesn't matter because when you search your name in the Google, and then you will see your name with that, meaningless words together. So they know how to do this because they are really educated on that.
Right, so they try to discredit you in the public discourse and on the internet. But have you had any has it gone beyond that?
Yeah, once I have been asked for a local branch of governmental party. The head of the local branch, they just called me and invited me to his office to talk about these issues. And it wasn't a direct threat, but I felt like uncomfortable in that position because I'm just a scientist. He asked me, do I have any connection with some foreign organizations? I said, no, come on, you are the governmental member of a governmental party. You can easily investigate and find if I have any connection. And at that time, I had some, the bunch of imported plastic waste dumped in a location in Adana. I had samples, a map of London city. I mean the metro map of London city, just dumped in Adana, and the menu of a cafe in Ireland, Dublin. I just collected all those, obvious things to provide the extent of problem. Someone asked me, and then that guy asked me to show him proof. Then I provided this, obvious example. This is not a business. This is not a importing raw material. This is importing of pollution. This is kind of transportation of pollution from developed world to Turkey.
So you're really countering these attempts of intimidation or threats or skeptic questions with actual facts and evidence, and that seems to be successful.
Yeah. After that, that guy, he told me that he is in my side because I gave some more scientific information about the effect of plastic waste on children health, human health. This is a good angle to explain the effect of something if you make connection directly people's own. So after that conversation, the government released a ban on plastic waste import. Yeah, because of course this is not the only thing that affected this decision, but there was many other things that we done, like mapping activities, showing evidence, and then analyzing, and it was a really annoying thing because the city itself become a topic of waste. Actually, the Adana is the name of kebab. The city itself, Turkish kebab, it's mean Adana kebab. But at that time, it was Adana and waste together more than kebab when you check in the internet, because all the international media just told about all this European waste dumped in Adana. So this was a bit annoying for them. So that's why that was the main reason of this decision. But this ban just was 7 days ban. After that, because of industry pressure on this in the Ankara, I mean the capital city, they had money, of course, so they changed the legislation after 7 days. Now Turkey is still importing plastic waste as it before. There is no change. The only change is there is no more that big scale of illegal dumping, but they found another way to dump.
So that brings us to waste trade. You're also following the bigger discussion around global trade of waste, be it illegal or legal, right? And I remember when China closed its doors to plastic waste or most plastic waste, and then that redistributed the trade flows to other countries, and then they started to close their borders as well or have stricter policies. And I think the European Union also now doesn't allow as much plastic waste trade anymore, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I would love to say that, yeah, European Union do not export any plastic anymore. but that's not true. They changed legislation, but there are a couple of loopholes in this new legislation because they officially banned export of plastic waste to non-OECD countries, but they opened a gate for this non-OECD countries. If they apply to European Union to say that they want to import plastic waste, then they will be allowed to import.
Can you just quickly explain OECD, non-OECD countries, because not everybody might know what they are?
Yeah, it's this kind of classification of the development level of countries, but this is just a statistical things. Actually, not all the OECD countries are developed. Like Turkey, Mexico, there are a couple of OECD countries which is not really developed in terms of, income. But this is statistic. Economically developed countries and economically non-developed countries. This is the classification. But this is meaningless for plastic waste export. It doesn't mean that a country member of OECD can can export or import or whatever plastic, because there is no direct connection with it. I don't know why they use this classification. They actually should use that another index like a waste generation, and then waste disposal or plastic production or consumption. This kind of index we really need for this kind of legislations, because it has to be based on connected classification, not pure economical classification. This is actually the problem. So currently, all these non-OECD countries, which is Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, on this kind of countries, so they apply it to European Union now. And then European Union will send some inspector or something like that. And then if they decide those countries can handle those exported plastic waste, environmentally sound management. I don't know what does this mean, because there is no clear definition of this in the legislation, European Union legislation. If they find that that's okay, then they will continue to send this plastic waste to those countries. But OECD countries, there is no limitation, only environmentally sound management. So this means they will send some inspector to those countries. I mean, like to Turkey, they will look to facilities. They will look to how they operate those facilities. If they say, okay, this facility is in the European standards, then they will send this plastic waste to those countries. But the problem is the inspectors will be private, not the public one. I mean, not the governmental inspectors. There will be kind of accountant companies which will provide this services.
What does that mean for Turkey in specific, like these loopholes? How has the situation developed and changed with waste from other countries being imported into Turkey?
Look, all these importer countries has same pattern in terms of waste management. All of those importers cannot collect their waste, cannot sort, classify, and recycle, dispose. I mean, the safe disposal mechanism they don't have. Like, for instance, Turkey can only collect like 10% of their plastic waste, which it means that 500,000 tons per year. So Turkey generates 4 million tons of plastic waste per year. So the remaining 3.5 million tons goes to landfill or some incinerators. In the other side, Turkey imports like 800,000 tons per year. It's like double what it collects, what the country handle its own waste. So normally the capacity should be, I mean, the recycling capacity should be 1.4 million ton per year. So it's almost half of the total generated plastic waste of the country. But when you import plastic waste, it means that you are reserving your capacity to somebody else waste. This is the issue. And then all this waste that you capable to handle remain in the environment. So that makes you one of the most polluted country in the Mediterranean Sea. It's similar for Philippines, similar for India, similar for Bangladesh or other countries, because they don't have proper waste management system. When we see the statistics, those countries, I mean, countries in South Asia is like the most polluted countries in the world. But in the reality, those contribution not only belongs to those countries, also belongs to those exporters like UK, United States, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, those countries. And on the other hand, when you look at this recycling champion in the list, in the table, in the like the World Bank, OECD, or Statista, they release statistics every year. The first country is Germany, Netherlands, and Norway, Sweden. But they also, counting those exported waste in their recycling rate. Like if they send 1 million ton to other countries, they don't care about the fate of those exported plastics. They just put 1 million ton as recycled in their table. So it makes them the championship of recycling, championship of environmentally friendly country.
So we Germans look really nice then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I often hear from Germans, something like, well, we treat our waste well, and so if you talk about plastic pollution, like you don't need to worry that your packaging ends up in another country and pollutes the environment because we treat it so well. But that's not really true. It does actually contribute to pollution in other countries. And I think it's really interesting how you explained that basically the imported waste then takes away also the capacity to deal with the local or the national waste in Turkey. What I also found really interesting following your work over the years was that you also were making connections between natural catastrophes, natural disasters that Turkey, as many other countries, has been hit by again and again, and how that impacts plastic pollution. And I'd love you to expand a little bit on that. I remember you were talking about flash floods. I remember the huge earthquake that happened. So maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, Turkey in multiple crises. I don't want to use actually this term, but this is exactly multiple crisis. It's not only limited with imported plastics, because we have two different kind of import plastic waste. First one is like economically imported. I mean, as a trade, commercial trade. The second one is naturally import, because the location of the country is just the edge of Mediterranean Sea. So all this current, the main current in the Mediterranean Sea, carrying all this plastic waste dumped by other countries like Egypt, Tunisia, even Libya, Israel, and Syria, Lebanon. So they are dumping plastic waste into the sea. So the sea current carrying all this plastic waste into the Adana. And this makes Adana is like the naturally imported plastic destination. This is also sad because that locations, I mean that beaches, one of the biggest nesting ground for turtles, sea turtles. Not only caretta, also Chelonia midas, is we call it green sea turtle. So it's a huge dust. I mean, the huge sandy beaches. Like currently, they are laying eggs and some small offsprings, like trying to get back to the sea, because this is the season. But at the same time, now hundreds and thousands tons of plastic waste every day just ends up this coast. Just 1 kilometer per day, 1 kilometer per day, like 31 kilogram of plastic waste, just like in entire the northeastern coast of Mediterranean Sea, ends up in the those nesting grounds. Maybe you know that those animals, they are coming back for laying egg in the same beach that they was burned. So this is very sad for them, because when they come, because we conduct a study on one of that beach, when they come to the sandy beach for laying egg, they are looking around if there are many plastic. So they are trying to find suitable place in the beach. If they couldn't find any suitable place, so they are going back without laying egg, and then they are making another attempt, maybe next day, maybe 2 days after that. If they couldn't do this, they will not, lay eggs, and then returning back to the sea with eggs. So there are many such cases happening for this animal. So this is the first issue that I can say. The second thing is all the
So basically, biodiversity and
yeah
plastic
yeah
pollution being so closely connected.
yeah
Yeah,
yeah
yeah.
yeah because Turkey is really have a really high rich diversity when we compare with the European territory. So this plastic waste issue affects the biodiversity, and also food security. Because the study that we conduct on foods, stuff like stuffed mussel, which is one of the traditional way of consumption of mussel, filling with rice. You can find everywhere in Istanbul, for instance, full of microplastics. It's not only coming from the sea; it's also because of the food processing phase, and the canned fish. I mean the conserved fish and the conserved sea product. They also has microplastics inside that packaging. The Turkish people exposed to microplastic with many way. Also, we are currently working on the effect of demolition and removal activities happening now in the earthquake zone. It's still happening because there are hundreds and thousands of different, hundreds and thousands of buildings demolished during the earthquake. So, but there was a wild removal activities happen in that region. So still, when you go there, when you visit, the particulate matter in the ambient air make you sick because you cannot breathe because it's just really dusty. So in that ambient air, there are also microplastics because all those buildings and all those houses demolished with full of furnitures and like household items. So during this activities, all the microplastics just mix into the atmosphere and transported to other part of the city. So whenever you live in that region, you will be exposed to those microplastics. And the interesting thing that we recently published on the microplastic in the glacier lakes. We have some glaciers in the mountains, which is higher than 4,000 meter high. So all those glaciers has microplastics, surprisingly. Not the high amount, but even, you find one particle per liter, it's mean that, in entire lake, it can be concerning level of contamination because those lakes are really far from the urban areas. So there is no human activities like in winter and in some part of the year. Only the touristical season. I mean, in the summer period, there are a couple of recreational activities happening in that part, and also, yeah, I can say many more on that. Yeah, but there is no
It's
place.
endless,
Yeah, it's
endless
endless.
connections. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Maybe to wrap up as a last question, after your many years of researching, trying to understand the issue, observing what's going on in Turkey, like what would need to be done specifically in and for Turkey for the issue to improve?
The first thing that we have seriously think about is the banning single-use plastics because the Turkey is becoming the country using too much single-use plastics in daily life. So the first thing that we should do, we should go far beyond on the tax application on plastic bag because the only legislation that we have on the plastic pollution, I mean tackling plastic pollution.
So like having like a few cents or a
Yeah,
few like a little bit of money to pay for a
it's
plastic bag instead of giving them out freely. Are they still given out freely in Turkey?
no, in the in the big markets and the shopping centers you have to pay, but it's like 50 cents, 50 Turkish cents, which you cannot even buy a chewing gum. So people really doesn't care about that. They are just buying and then paying for this plastic bag. We have to improve this legislation, and then we should go step forward, like banning plastic bag in those shopping malls. And the second thing is we should consider on this, like as I said, single-use plastics, and then a restriction on plastic waste import, because plastic waste import really a really big problem for Turkey, not only for Adana, for other cities as well, because we have a common phenomena we are connected with this importing plastics. It's like facility fires. Every month we see at least 15 different plastic recycling facility fires getting in fire. So this can't be coincidence. It should be related with some certain reason, like disposal of unwanted plastic waste, like stored in the facilities. All these facilities has storage part and management part and the machinery part. Surprisingly, somehow all this fires happening in the storage part, not in the main part. So it has to be investigated seriously.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then all the dioxins and all the dirty like
Chemical
combustion stuff that comes out of
atmosphere, atmosphere.
goes into the air.
When you see a fire, it's like there is like a rising, the increasing black smoke and covering around the facility. It's happening every city in Turkey. It's too much, so it has to be considered as part of criminal activity, because this is crime, environmental crime and human health crime, because those dioxins, furan, and POPs, the persistent organic pollutants and heavy metals, just getting in atmosphere and then transferring the closest reservoirs. Like water sources that we drink, and also agricultural areas. So this is huge, food security issue and also environmental health issue. So this has to be investigated seriously. But currently there is no such initiative. I don't know why. I know the reason, but in the public manner, I don't know why. It's meaningless.
So single-use plastics, regulate those better than the second.
No, there is no regulation.
No, so start regulating them at all in
yeah.
Turkey. And then the second thing is stop the waste imports. And then is there a third thing that might be important to solve the issue?
Yeah, Turkey should also consider this intentionally added microplastics, because all these personal care products has microplastic inside. All of them. There is no exemption. When you check the labels, they stated there are many different type of microplastic added in that products. We should follow this kind of already regulated regulations in other countries. We don't need to explore USA again. This is a quotation in Turkey. Do not explore America again. Everything is obvious. You can just follow this kind of things as other country did.
Like because other countries have already regulated the intentionally added microplastics in cosmetics and personal care products.
Yeah.
So that with all those issues, is there something that gives you hope in this arena?
Of course, yeah, because we have some passionate people working on that. There are many scientists, as you already know. They're working on that. There are many, passionate people, spending their time to change the world, change the situation. And yeah, it's actually more than hope, because I'm trying to do my best, because I'm scientist, I'm citizen, and also defending environment. So I'm looking myself. I think it's better than to hope, a solution or a help comes from other people's. So if you make change, it's in any manner, it's like I'm not talking about this big change. I mean, changing the world, small change. Even I can create a change in one person. That's okay for me.
And I'm sure you are an inspiration to many, Sedat. I'm very sure.
Hopefully.
You are to me, definitely. Thank you so much for this
Thank
great
you.
conversation, Sedat. It was so insightful.
Thanks for inviting me for this, interview. I really like to talk with you because I really like this Plastisphere podcast because you are inspiring also other people. Yeah, I know many people which have no connection but sharing your podcast in Instagram, even Turkish people. Yeah, so this is a really good thing because you are spreading the words, good words to the world. Yeah.
And we have a little project going together right now
Yeah.
because I was working with the Helmholtz Center Herion and the University of Strathclyde on this project Plastic Mythbusters,
Yeah.
where we scientifically fact-check like common plastic assumptions and myth. And you and a couple of people in Turkey are now working on translating it, right?
Yeah.
How far along are you?
Yeah, we are just on the stage of preparing website. So a group of IT people working on that. They're preparing our website. And then we will engage, add this plastic myth busting inside the website with Turkish version. So everything is like progressing slowly, but we will finalize it maybe in the next month, something like that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, let us know when it's done, and then we can share.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sedat.
Thank you, Anja.
This was Plastisphere, the podcast on plastic, people, and the planet, with Sedat Gündogdu of Cukurova University in Adana, Turkey, and me, Anja Krieger. If you enjoyed our episode, please leave us a nice rating and review. For a very stark example of the consequences of waste trade and recycling in Turkey, Sedat and I recommend you to listen to a new true crime podcast mini-series called Boy Wasted, which investigates the fate of Afghan and other immigrants working in the Turkish recycling sector under inhumane conditions. It's quite graphic and gruesome, but really brings home the consequences of insufficiently regulated recycling markets. I'll provide the link in the episode description. You can write to me with any questions. My email is anja@plastisphere.earth. As always, thanks to Dorian Roy for the music and Maren von Stockhausen for the podcast cover art. I am already working on the next episode, so subscribe if you haven't and stay tuned. We'll be back soon.